Thank you for coming today, everyone. Today's in-depth training call, we're going to be talking about reports, how you can customize the existing standard reports to change around some of the options that are set by default to tailor the report to show you information that you're looking for. We're going to be looking at a few of the most common reports and how you can change the report options on those. But anything that we cover can be applied to any other report. So if we don't go over every single report in the system, the tools that we cover in this call will still show you how you can go through and view some of the options that exist for other reports in the system and how you can make modifications, how you can go through and set up other report options for any of the reports in the system. The reports that we're really going to be looking at for this call, we're going to be looking at the options for the WIP reports, the cell reports, the AR reports, and we're also going to take a look at making some options on the invoices. So to start off, we're just going to go ahead and pull up the existing WIP report, look at the options that are there, see what we can modify, and then show you how you can go through and make other changes within the system to these reports. So all the reports are found under Reports. In this case, we're going to go to WIP and Built and WIP. And then these are the current WIP reports. We got WIP Summary, WIP by Order Station, WIP by calendar month due. So we got a couple of different WIP options that are in the menu here. If we select the WIP summary, I have a lot of the checkbox options set by default. I have, show WIP, show built. You can go through and just look at the different options that you have access to. You can show the line items. You can show the totals on the job. You can go through and pull up options for showing all the WIP orders that were entered by a specific person. I have access to doing that through this option here. So I click on Show Detail on any of these sections to go through and modify that information. So I could show only WIP orders that were entered by a specific person. I have other grouping options. So instead of grouping it by status, I can select the first level grouping here, and I can group this by station, I can group it by entered by, I can group this by salesperson. So depending on what I'm looking for, I can tell the system to group my WIP orders in any order that I want them to. I can also pick orders that are in specific station. I can do line item stations if I use that particular level. But once you have all the options set, you can preview that report. And that will show you, based off the options that are selected, it'll show you all the jobs that are sorted by the status in this case. And it only shows me the WIP and Built, because those are the only options that were selected. Maybe I'm interested, though, in making a new report option that doesn't take the place of the existing one. So I want to keep my initial options there, but I want to be able to do a report that has my own custom options, so that way I can run a report that's custom tailored by me, because that's what I'm interested in running. What you can do is go up to Setup, Reporting Setup, and then from here you go to Reports on Main Menu. This is basically a replica of the same report menu that you see if you were to pull down the Reports option here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to WIP and Built and WIP Reports, and I'm going to select the WIP Summary order level, and I'm going to hit Clone on this menu here. What I can do now is I can give this report its own name. So what we want to do is I'm going to build a report that shows me all WIP orders that are due within a specified time frame. So I'm going to call this report WIP Due Between. But you get to specify the name here. And this name, all that dictates is the name that the report will show up in your menu here. But once you have the report name, what you can do is click on the Options button, and that will show you all the options on the report that are both able to be seen when you run the report, and then also you can see options that are preset by the system that you don't normally see when somebody goes to run this report. So the options that we're caring about is I want to see all the WIP orders that are set within a specific time frame that are due maybe next week. So there's an option here that has the dates that you don't normally see. If I select the Show Detail here, I have the option to make this, instead of a preset value, I can make this a prompt user value. And all that means is if it's preset, I don't see this option when I'm going to preview the report. Whereas if I select prompt, this is an option that the user that goes to run the report has the ability to change this value here. So we're going to make the date range choosable. And then I can click on Show Summary to minimize that box. If we scroll down on the WIP report, there is an option that is called Query Date Type. What this controls is if I select a date range, what date am I basing that particular date range off of? So I can tell the report I want to see all orders that are due between a specific date. I want to see all orders that were created within a certain time frame. I want to see all orders that were marked sale within a certain time frame. I have complete control over what that date option is with this option here on the report for the Query Date Type. So for the report menu that we're creating, we don't want this option to be changed, so I'm going to keep it as a preset value. But I'm going to go ahead and change the option on this report to be the due date. And then now I can go through and show summary and see the other report options. The other report options that are extremely useful on this particular report is the first level grouping and the second level grouping. What that does is that allows you to choose how the orders that are shown up on this report are grouped. Do I want to group them by the company? Do I want to group them by the status? Do I want to group them by the salesperson? You have control over what those options are set up as. So for this one, we want to group it by company. And then under company, we can go to the second level grouping and tell it, well, the first is going to group it by company first, but under company, how is it going to group them under there? So you could group it by station under the company level. You can group it by product, so you can see the specific products that are on that particular job under the company. So you can choose how it's going to sort the second level grouping. Or if you're not interested in grouping it two ways, you can just leave the second level grouping option at none. Once I go through and choose all the options that I want to specifically set for this report, what I can do is click on Save. So what happens now is if I go back up to Reports, I can go to WIP and Built in WIP Reports, and there's the new report option that we just created with the specific defaults that we just told it to use. So if I pull this report up, since I cloned it from the order summary, all the options are mostly the same except for the ones that we modified, which in this case here is we added the option to be able to change the date range on this report. So I want to see all orders that are due next week. So now, based off the options that we selected on this report, I can choose date range of standard, next week, preview this report, and this will show me, grouped by company, all the orders that have a due date of next week. So using that ability, you can customize and make however many report menu options with the specific defaults that you are interested in. So you can have reports that are grouped a specific way. You can have reports that are looking for orders that are due within a time frame. You can look at all the orders that are created within a time frame. Using this ability, you have the option to create however many report items as you need to run the reports that you're looking for. And that's only with the WIP report. There's other reports that we can look at that have the same options and the same ability to customize those reports with different settings that are dependent upon what you are looking for. So let's go ahead and close out these screens. And the next report that we want to look at is going to be the sales report. This is going to be found under Reports, Sales, Sales Report. Under here, I have a lot of similar options to what the WIP report had, but these options are specific to the sales report and not to the WIP report. So I have the same date range option. I have the same grouping option. On this report, I also have a product option, salesperson option, customer option. So I have other different settings that are specific to this report. So maybe I want to group this report by salesperson and then by product. That's how this is currently set up. Maybe I don't want to group it by salesperson. I want to group it by company and then product. I can change the first group on this report by clicking on the Show Detail and then pulling this option down. I can group it by any of these options here that I select. So I'm going to group it by company name and then group it by product below. And then preview that. and that will show me all the jobs that were marked sale within the time frame given on the report, grouped by company, and then grouped by the sales account or the product that was assigned to that particular job. Now, if I go to the same place that we went to before, I'm going to go to Setup, Reporting Setup, Reports on Main Menu, and then Sales. If I click on the sales report here, I can go ahead and clone this to make a new option. I can give this report a name based off of what we're going to be looking for, and then I can go to my options here. And then we have the ability to go through and set up a new report option that has any specific default that I wanted. So maybe I'm only interested in seeing my digital products. So I can create a sales report that is only showing specific products. So I'm going to go back to General, and I'm going to call this Sales Digital Products. Now I can go to the Options menu again, go down where it has Product specified, uncheck Select All, and I can go through and select the products that I want to show on this particular job. For this example, we're going to do Roll Sign Print and Rigid Sign Print. And then I can click on the Show Summary to minimize that. Since we're only showing specific products, I don't need to do a grouping of products. So I can do a group by, in this case here, we'll say company name. Unminimize that, and go to second grouping, and I don't need a second grouping. So all I have to do is select product and then select none. Now if I want to, I can change the option on here from prompt user to be preset if I don't want people to be able to go through and change this option on this report. Otherwise, if I want to allow the feature for people that are previewing this report to change the grouping themselves, I can just leave that at prompt, so that way anyone that goes to run this report can change the grouping option for themselves when they're running the report. So if I save this, I go to Reports, Sales, there's my Sales Digital Products. And it's going to have defaulted for options that I left at prompt. I will still see those options, so I could change them. I could also go through and make it preset if I didn't want this product option to be changed. But now I'm going to go ahead and change the date range so I get some more data here. And that's going to show me the sales that are only related to my roll sign print and my rigid sign print. And again, I can create however many menu options for the sales report if I'm interested in doing something like that. So all these sales values we're representing is just those two products that we selected. Let's close this. We'll go back to our sales report. And that is really all there is for the sales reports. You can go through and make however many default options as you want if you're looking for different sorting options. And if we go under here, Analysis by Category, there's a lot of preset options for the sales report that just have different default groupings. So a lot of the default grouping options have already been set for you. But if there's a specific grouping option that you're looking for that doesn't exist, this is how you could create your own grouping option. One question that comes up a lot whenever we're talking about reports is with regards to the AR reports. A lot of times the AR reports will currently reflect the orders that are also in WIP and Built. So what we're going to do now is I can show you how to go through and modify some specific options that are set up on the AR reports so you can make this report more accurate to what your actual AR values are. So if I do Reports, Customers and Receivables, AR Reports, I got the AR Summary and AR Detail. Now on your system, these options may be set to be preset options. So you wouldn't have an option to change these options on your report. So to do that, we're going to go to Cancel This, and we're going to do the same thing that we did for the other reports, is go to Setup, Reporting Setup, and then Reports on Main Menu, Customers and Receivables, and then AR Reports. And this should have the AR Summary and the AR Detail report. So if I select this report, I don't need to do a new menu option for this one. I just need to go through and edit the existing options. So I can select the report and just click on Edit. From here, I can go to the Options tab, and I can see that this option here is set to preset values. So for the detailed report, this section wouldn't have shown. So I can go through and change these options. For the AR report, the options that you want to have checked would be the Based on GL, and then you want to uncheck the Include Whip and Build and the Show Whip and Build if the Whip and Build orders are showing up on your AR report. So doing that, you get an AR report that is actually reflecting what is currently in your ARs at this point in time. So once you have those options selected, all you have to do is save that report. Now, one thing that is very useful that you can do a custom change to the AR report is to make a historical AR report. So from this same screen, I'm going to go through and I'm going to clone this report. I'm going to call this AR Detail Historical. If I click on the options, there is an option on here that says Historical Report Date. So what I can do is I can click on the Show Detail there, change this to be Prompt User, and save that. So now I have a new report option that will allow me to view my ARs as of a specific point in time. So if I'm curious as to not what my ARs are today, but I want to know what my AR value was at the beginning of the month, I can now do Reports, Customers and Receivables, AR Reports, AR Detail, Historical. Then I'm going to go to Historical Report Date, and I can choose a custom date. So I'm going to say, in this case, my date is going to be October 1st, and preview that. So what we'll show you is printed as of 10/25. Okay, so this report, we didn't turn on the GL option. So when you're doing historical, that option for Based on GL needs to be checked. So if I edit this, check this option here, uncheck the Whip and Built, and keep the Show Details checked, I'm going to save that now. So if I close this report now and go to rerun it, so Customers Receivables, AR, AR Detail, we'll set our historical report date. Oops. So custom, set it for the 1st. And then preview. So with those options selected, it's going to show you the historical date for this report is as of October 1st, even though it's printed at today. So now the AR report is reflecting what my ARs were at that point in time. So now I have a historical report that I can run in addition to still having access to my regular AR detail for today. So that's another option that comes up quite often. So let's close this, and the last thing that we're going to look at is the invoice, because there's a lot of invoice options that you can use to make other invoice option reports as well. So for this one, I'm just going to open up a random order, and we'll do Print Standard Invoice. If we take a look here, there's lots of different options on this report to show unit price, show child items, show signature blocks. So you have lots of different options on here that maybe not everyone wants to use the same options. So what you can do is you can create a report that is maybe minimal and have another standard invoice that is kind of the standard invoice detailed that shows the child items, that shows the unit price, that shows the discounts, that shows all this extra information. So rather than changing the options here and doing save as default, which what that would do is that would save those options across the board for this report. But we want to have the ability to have more than one report, so that way we have our standard options, and then we have this report that has the new options. So I'm going to cancel out of this report, and we're going to go back up to Setup, Reporting Setup. For invoices, we're going to go to a different section, which is going to be Reports on Action Toolbar, and then for orders and invoices. So now I see the list that mimics my order list right here. I'm going to do standard invoice. I'm going to clone this. I'm going to call this standard invoice detailed. So what I can do now is go to the options menu, and I can change the options for this report. So in this case here, I'm going to expand the section for the display child item, and I'm going to say show and display price. Click on show summary. And I'm just going to go through and show a couple other options here because we want this to be more detailed. So I'm going to show the line item taxes. I'm going to show my split taxes. So I want to see what my overall taxes for this particular job are. I want to have the return stub on here. So I can go through and select these options for this report. So now if I save this, I have a new report in my option for standard invoice detailed that I can print in addition to my regular invoice. But it's the same report, but with different options that are defaulted for this report. Now, one thing to note, when you're messing with the options that are on the action toolbar, you may occasionally have to close and reopen or go to a new order to refresh the menu option. Because if you are on an order, you change that report option from here, you either have to go to a new order or close that order and reopen that order for the report menu to refresh. But what we've looked at, basically this can be applied to any report in this system. So if you're curious as to what some of the options are on any of the reports, you can always go to the report menu setup, drill down to the report, whether it be on the action toolbar, which is going to be your orders, your invoices, your company reports, packing slips. All those reports are found under the action toolbar. Or if you're looking for the report options that are for this section, those are all the reports that are found under the reports on main menu. And using the tools that we covered in this video, you can look at the options that are available for any report and make any changes that you need to make for those particular reports in your system. And using these options and these abilities, you can then customize these report options in the system to tailor it and match the report needs that you're looking for, and not just the report options that are set by default within the system.